Welcome to the inUpowers podcast, where we give a name and a face to emotion. We discuss the real and raw when it comes to mental and emotional health. We are here to teach you that emotions are information and behavior is a choice. We want to help you make safer connections through healthy communication by empowering you to understand what your emotions are telling you. I'm your host, Tami. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to the inUpowers podcast. I'm Tami, your host, and today we are going to talk about the characters Sue and Phil. And for our Moments Minute, I want to let you know that you might need to prepare yourself for this one. We are going to be talking about Sue, Severe Unraveling Event. She's trauma, and she's different than all the rest of the characters. And as we talk about her, she can bring up a lot of feelings, and they could be very hard. And so for our Moments Minute, I want you to put yourself in a safe space, a headspace, or personal space, or whatever you need to listen to this, so that as we go through these emotions, that you can recognize them within yourselves and come up with a healthy plan, but not let this become trauma again. It's a hard topic. In fact, she's kind of one of my scariest characters. So let me start with her. Her name's Sue. Severe Unraveling Event. She's a tsunami, and she changes your landscape forever. If you've ever seen a video of a tsunami, if you've studied a tsunami, or you know anything about them, a plate shifts or an earthquake happens or a volcano erupts on one side of the world, which is devastating, but then it creates a giant wave that comes and wipes away entire towns and villages and homes and landscape. I want you to know that Sue is our outlier. Of all the characters, they all have family except for Sue. She's abandoned. And she's a tsunami, and locked in her is a lot of hurt and pain. In fact, we have what we call a chest of pain in her. And instead of opening it up and healing it, she just keeps it buried really deep in her wave. And if you look at her, her wave is really dark and dingy at the bottom, and really bright at the top, but still dirty. And it's because of all the things that were once treasures when the tsunami hits, now turns into garbage. And that's what can happen with trauma. When you experience trauma, what once was a treasure, a relationship, a person, a home, a school, a place, and something that could take as little as 3 seconds changes everything. And now what was a treasure is now some pretty filthy garbage. A tsunami not only comes and wipes it out, but there's an undertow that sucks it all right back out to sea. Water is one of the most powerful forces in the whole world, and yet it completely surrenders. But a little drop of water on the same spot can erode a foundation and destroy a home. And that's what tsunamis do. They just change the landscape forever. And that's what trauma does. It changes your tomorrows forever. You aren't who you were. And you can't go back. And you have to go forward. But it might be unrecognizable. Trauma is a great place for you to build what you want if you choose to heal from it and find a team. But if you experience trauma and you don't get help and you suppress and you refuse to deal with the emotions, they will come back up and they will come back out. They always do. They always do. People get sick. They have cancers. It never ever hides forever. And trauma, well, I got Sue when my husband and I went off-roading. We love razor riding. We're kind of adrenaline junkies. In fact, as you've heard the episode, I'm pretty accident prone, and I've had lots of experiences in my life, and I've had a lot of trauma moments, and I've had a lot of moments, and I've had a lot more phenomenal moments, but I've had a lot of them in my life. And when I was getting the character Sue, I heard tsunami and SUE, and I was like trying to figure out what that meant. And we went razor riding in the height of COVID. It was the height of COVID. Like, you couldn't do anything with anyone, so me and him could go out in the mountains. And we live in Idaho, and we're like 15 minutes away from just beautiful mountains and freedom. And my husband was like, oh, let's go on this trail. I can see two roads. However, the sign said for a bike, a bicycle, a hiker, or like a mountain bike. And I'm like, honey, it just says this. And he's like, oh, we'll be fine. We'll just turn around when it gets bad. Well, we did turn around when it was bad. So we were on the side of a mountain. Nobody knew where we were. It was COVID. We didn't tell our kids we went off-roading. They were grown up. And we climbed to the top of the mountain. And when it went down to one lane, we were on a cliff. And my husband had to take and 10 time turn around. He's going to get in trouble for me saying this. But he turned around, and one time we slipped and a log caught us. I'm like, oh, that would have been so severe, because we were out of cell range. Nobody knew we were there. We were on a path we shouldn't have been on. And we could have been really, really hurt if we tumbled down that cliff in that razor. And I heard Severe Unraveling Event. I'm like, tsunami, SUE, I know your name. And I started thinking, what would my life have been had we rolled down the mountain, which we didn't. But that's how she became a character for me. And over the years, I have heard trauma over and over again. But when people would bring up their trauma or talk about their chest or their hurt or their pain, right? That chest of pain I said she has, their baggage, it was so messy and yucky and almost protected. Like, don't touch it. That's my baggage. Like, you can't fix it. I'm not going to go through it. I don't want this new landscape. I don't want it to be touched. That they continued to hurt themselves with it. In fact, they paralyzed their tomorrows with their trauma, because they hung on to their trauma so tight, they didn't learn how to move forward different. They wanted what they had, which can't exist anymore. And they didn't want to do the work it took to rebuild tomorrow, because it was scary. Severe Unraveling Event trauma. No one in this world comes unscathed. I mean, I don't remember being born, but I know I cried. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't a great experience as an infant, but it's something we all experienced. We're not meant to be alone. We're not meant to be isolated. We're not meant to build an entire landscape by ourselves. And no one, not one person, should have to clean up the mess of trauma by themselves. It's easier sometimes to keep it shoved down, but it's not. That's a lie. If you address it and heal and get the team of doctors, friends, construction workers, contractors, auto mechanics, whatever was your accident or your trauma, to help you rebuild, you get the tomorrows you want and you're stronger. And at the same time I got SUE, I had FIL, which is Fullness In Living. And if you remember the very beginning of this whole thing, I taught you the word BU to fullness, which fullness is your weaknesses, strengths, gifts, and talents. It's FIL. He's your weaknesses and strengths, gifts, and talents. He's your bicep. And he is the principle of a bicep is resistance, tear, soar, stronger. Now think about that with SUE. Resistance, tear, soar, stronger. That's why FIL goes so good with SUE, and that's when I got him around the same time. Anyways, the principle of muscle is used all the time in the inUpowers. And we want to give up in that tear and soar spot, but that's just a piece of the stronger. It's that tear and soar spot that we recover and become a stronger, more capable human. And FIL is just the coolest dude. Fullness in Living. He's a bicep, and he loves his team. And he is all about the team. He actually has team high tops. And he knows that it takes every member of a team to truly win. And if you've ever been on a team, you know that in a team sport, you know you can't be the goalie and the front guy and the protector and the defender all in one. One person cannot defend 10, 11, 12, 6, depending on whatever sport it is. You need a team. Same with Sue. If you've had trauma and your landscape's changed, you need a team. You need someone to hold you and help you through the hard, or say, okay, now let's go. Let's build those muscles. Let's keep going, because it's different for everyone and everybody's trauma is different. And what is trauma for one might not phase somebody else, and what's trauma for other might crumble someone else. That's the brilliance of being unique and being different and being different cultures and different places of the world. However, we all need each other. And that's Phil. He's the Fullness in Living, and he loves his team. Phil also knows that he is not the only muscle in a body, right? Like, you have your bicep, but your arms aren't doing all the work. Your feet and your arms and your legs, and even my mouth has muscles that are making it work right now. And he's happy to work with all the muscles to make sure we get the project done. And and when you're having a Phil moment, you recognize your part on a team. And you recognize that you are a piece of the team. And you also recognize when it's too hard. Sometimes we push ourselves really, really hard, which is not a bad thing. And becoming your personal best is expected. But when you're pushing yourself too hard and you don't recover, that is bad. Because a muscle can't get stronger if it doesn't rest and recover. After trauma, we also need to rest and recover. And so not only will Phil be a great part of the team, but when he's feeling weak or knows he needs to recover, he'll take the time and do that as well. It can be hard in the world to be a part of a team and not want to be the best or want to be the star. Or are you the person that wants to hide and build the team? Like, you be the front man, you do all the hard work, like, I'll build you, right? But it takes all the pieces. Not one piece of the inUpowers was done all by me. I have had a team with me the entire time. And it takes all of us to make the inUpowers program an opportunity for others to understand their emotions. And there have been moments where our team has been tired and we've needed to recover, especially getting this launched. You'd be amazed at the stuff we've done in the hours we pulled, but we also knew how important understanding your emotions are, and giving a name and a face can change, because we saw it in lives. In fact, talking back on Sue, not trying to go in circles, but understanding Sue and Phil, our Severe Unraveling Event trauma, at the very beginnings, at the infancy of the inUpowers program, as we were starting to put the curriculum together, we helped a group of sex trafficking survivors. Not just in America, but abroad. And if you want a powerful moment, if you want to believe you can, be around a survivor. I was sitting in Nepal. We were at a home where a bunch of survivors are, and a new girl had just gotten there, and she had panda eyes from the trauma, and we broke up in groups, and I asked her, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she said, grow up? And I said, well, what do you dream of? And she said, dream? And then her mentor, who'd lived there a couple years, came up and hugged her and said, she just got here. She hasn't learned to dream yet. And I realized in that very moment that if she can learn to dream, and if yet is that powerful of a word after the trauma she's experienced being a sex trafficking survivor, that I can too. And I don't have to give up. And I might not be there yet, but I can. She got rescued. She's in a home. She's going to school. And she's saying happy birthday to me. And on the video, she's smiling from ear to ear. Your trauma might have hurt you pretty bad. And you might need a team. Or you might be like Phil, resistance, have the trauma resistance, and you're in your tear sore spot. But I promise, if you choose to, you can become stronger. You can make a difference. And when you're on the other side of your trauma, and you've opened that chest of pain, and you've healed it, and you've built those muscles, and you realize that your weaknesses are now strengths, and you had strengths you never thought you needed or wanted to have, you can change your life forever. Because now you're on the team that is healing someone else. Trauma doesn't define you. It just gives you the landscape you choose to have. But it will never be what it was. It'll only be what you make it. And what you choose to do with it. You can let it continue to destroy you. Or you can start rebuilding the life you want. And be ready to be sore. And to hurt. And to fight through the strength. After surgery, man, physical therapy, it hurts. Because you did trauma to the muscle, and then they rip it and tear it and do all kinds of crazy stuff to your body. And it hurts, but it's good for you. Hurt is not a bad thing. Sore is not a bad thing. Trauma doesn't make you a bad person. Inflicting the same trauma to someone else because somebody did it to you, that's bad. Hurting someone because you're hurt, not good. If you're recently traumatized, hurting other people is the best way that most people know how to stay safe, but that's also not right. This week has been a heavy week because we talked about SUE, Severe Unraveling Event trauma. And we had a little bit of time with Phil because the principal of a muscle, and he's an amazing dude. And if you haven't looked up the inUpowers, please look up FIL and SUE and see the characters for yourself so you can just kind of see how you don't even need to know them from me, that you can just kind of see how they feel. But take care of yourself. Address your hurts. Open that chest of pain. I challenge you this week and invite you this week, if you are using trauma as an excuse, not a reason, as an excuse to not grow or to stay hurt or to stay trapped, I invite this word into your life. Yet. If a survivor who's rescued and was abused over 30 times a day has the ability to dream and have a tomorrow and just hasn't gotten there yet, so can you. Remember, emotions are information, behavior is a choice, and I'm excited to talk to you next week. We'll see you later. Bye. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the inUpowers podcast. We are grateful you are here. Please share this podcast with those you know who might need it, and follow and rate us so we can continue providing this podcast to you. Follow us on social media to see more visuals about the inUpowers, and join us next week for another episode. Until then, remember, the power to choose is in you.